There is this massive, almost universal frustration for veterans when it comes to dealing with the VA. And it really all boils down to two dreaded words, which is VA math.
Oh, yeah. The absolute bane of everyone's existence.
Right. I mean, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You spend years, sometimes even decades, just fighting the system. You stack like a 10% rating for your knee, maybe a 20% rating for your back.
It's bleeding time and energy.
Exactly. Bleeding time and energy only to hit this absolute brick wall and get permanently stuck at, 80% or 90% combined rating. But here is the hook for today. There is a completely legal, heavily documented shortcut to a 100% rating based on just one single severe condition.
Yeah, one condition. It completely bypasses that nightmare of combined math entirely.
And it can potentially unlock over $3,800 a month in tax-free compensation.
And yet, so many veterans just leave that money sitting on the table simply because the system, it doesn't proactively tap them on the shoulder and offer it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Veteran Briefing. Our mission for this deep dive is to break down the specific single conditions that the VA rates at 100% all on their own. We're going to dive into, how to claim them, the hidden perks they unlock, and why you might be missing out on thousands of dollars just because the VA rulebook is, well, it's incredibly dense.
It really is. It's a system that rewards the informed. You essentially have to know the rules of the game better than the people officiating it, honestly.
So true. So we need to talk about this trap of VA math versus the solo 100% rating. And I think the best way I can describe the VA's combined rating table is it's basically like trying to climb a greased pole.
That is a very accurate way to put it.
Right, because when you first start climbing, moving from 0 to 30% or maybe 30% to 50%, you can actually make some upward progress. But the higher you get on that pole, the harder it is to move up.
You just keep slipping.
Exactly. In the VA system, 30% plus 30% does not equal 60%. The math actually shrinks the value of every single new condition you add.
Yeah, and the underlying logic the VA uses there is based on this concept of remaining efficiency. They aren't doing straight addition. They are calculating how much of a healthy person you technically have left.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure, think of it this way. If you are rated 50% disabled, the VA considers you 50% healthy. So if you get another 50% rating for a completely different injury, they only apply that to the healthy half of you.
Oh, I see.
Right. And half of 50 is 25. So your new total is 75%, not 100%. It's basically an asymptotic curve. You keep getting closer and closer to 100, but mathematically it becomes just agonizing to actually cross that final finish line.
Which is completely exhausting for someone who's just trying to get the compensation they earned. But wait, if the entire system is built on this shrinking math to prevent people from easily hitting 100%, why does this shortcut even exist?
Well, because the VA inherently acknowledges that certain conditions are just so severe, so physically or mentally debilitating, that they make holding down normal, substantially gainful employment essentially impossible. Yeah, so for these highly specific, really serious conditions, they just drop the remaining efficiency formula altogether. You don't have to fight the combined math or, stack 5 different claims.
The condition itself carries a 100% rating.
Exactly. You skip the grease pole and just start at the top.
That completely flips the script for anyone stuck in that, 80 or 90% range.
Hey.
So let's open up the VA rulebook. There are 6 golden conditions written into the schedule that act as this exact shortcut. And as we go through these, I really want you listening to assess your own health, because you might qualify for a max rating without even realizing it. So let's start with cancer.
And this one is incredibly relevant right now, especially with the PT Act dramatically expanding what the VA considers a presumptive service connection. We're talking about all those toxic exposures, burn pits, Agent Orange, radiation, PFAS chemicals.
Right. But hold on, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. If I have a form of cancer that my oncologist says is, highly treatable, and I'm expected to be in remission in maybe 6 months, why would the VA give me a maximum disability rating? Because I always thought 100% ratings were for permanent injuries.
Yeah, and that's a very common misunderstanding. The VA isn't saying the cancer is permanent. What they're doing is acknowledging that the fight itself is incapacitating.
Okay.
The rule is that any active service-connected cancer that is being treated with surgery, chemotherapy, or radiation gets an automatic 100% rating. Because the logic here is that the brutal reality of chemo or radiation, it destroys your ability to function normally while you're going through it.
Yeah, you really can't work during that.
No, not at all. So you get the full 100% for the entire duration of the treatment, plus a mandatory recovery period afterward, which is typically about 6 months.
That makes a lot of sense. The treatment itself is disabling. Okay, so moving from cellular level issues, let's look at the body systemically. Our bodies are essentially closed hydraulic systems.
Right.
And the pump at the center of that system is the heart, which brings us to condition number 2, serious heart failure.
Right. And for the cardiovascular system, the VA isn't just looking at the diagnosis itself. They are actually looking at mechanical performance, like how hard can your heart actually work before it just gives out?
And how do they measure that?
They measure this in 2 main ways. One is METs, which is metabolic equivalent of task. And the other is by looking at your heart's pumping efficiency, which is known as the ejection fraction.
Okay, you're going to have to explain ejection fraction to me in plain English. What does that actually look like for a veteran who's just trying to get through their day?
Fair enough. So imagine your heart is a car engine. The ejection fraction is basically measuring the engine's horsepower, how much blood it pumps out with each contraction.
Okay, I follow.
A normal, healthy heart pumps at about 50 to 70%. If your engine can only output 30% of its normal power, that car is going to struggle to get up even a slight hill.
Right, it's going to stall out.
Exactly. So for a veteran, that means if your ejection fraction drops below 30%, or if extremely light activity, like just walking to your mailbox, leaves you completely out of breath and physically exhausted, the VA rates that at a full 100% on its own.
Because your engine just cannot sustain a normal work environment.
Precisely. And, the tragic part is there are older veterans sitting right now at a 30% or 50% rating for a heart condition they claimed maybe a decade ago.
Yeah.
It has naturally worsened over time, but they haven't gone back to the VA. They don't realize their current medical reality, like that shortness of breath they feel every single morning, actually qualifies them for the maximum benefit today.
Man, in keeping with that idea of a hydraulic system, when the heart fails to pump effectively, the downstream organs are starved of blood, and they begin to fail too. Which bridges us perfectly to condition number 3, which is kidney failure. We're talking about kidney failure that requires regular dialysis or a transplant.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, the baseline rule there is simple. If you're on dialysis, the VA schedule says that is a 100% rating, full stop. But I want to pull on a thread here because there is a really sneaky connection that I think a lot of people miss.
Let's hear it.
Well, kidney disease rarely starts out of nowhere as a primary issue, right? It quietly develops as a secondary result of other service-connected issues like high blood pressure or diabetes.
Oh, yes. Very true.
Because high blood sugar literally shreds the tiny blood vessels in your kidneys over time. So a veteran might be sitting in a dialysis chair 3 days a week, just thinking their kidney failure is bad luck, genetics, or old age. They're completely unaware that it connects directly back to the diabetes they developed from their service.
That is a brilliant point. The domino effect of secondary conditions is where veterans lose out the most. You really have to connect those dots. You might not have service-connected kidney failure on paper, but if you have service-connected diabetes, the kidney failure is a claimable secondary condition that jumps you straight to 100%. And, if you're finding these discussions helpful, please subscribe to Veteran Briefing so you never miss important updates and practical information for veterans and their families.
Absolutely. So we have the pump, we have the filter. Now let's talk about the intake. What happens when the blood is pumping, but it isn't carrying enough oxygen? This brings us to the 4th condition, which is severe breathing problems.
Yeah, we are looking at advanced, really serious lung disease here. This could be advanced COPD, emphysema, or serious scarring of the lungs. The VA determines the severity through pulmonary function tests.
That's where you blow into the tube, right?
Right, basically having you blow into a machine to see your lung volume and capacity. If those breathing tests come back exceptionally low, meaning your lungs are so compromised that you literally cannot draw enough oxygen to perform normal daily tasks, that condition hits the top of the schedule.
Which brings us right back to toxic exposures again. Think about all the veterans who had their lungs completely wrecked by burn pits or particulate matter in the desert or asbestos in shipyards.
Exactly.
They file a claim, they get a 30% rating, their lungs deteriorate over the next 10 years, and they just accept it as their new normal.
It's a tragic normalization of pain. They never go back to say, hey, I can't walk up a flight of stairs anymore. This is now a 100% disabling condition, according to your own book.
Yeah. Now, the 5th condition on this list shifts us away from the organs and into the nervous system. Severe neurological conditions. This covers diseases that essentially strip away your functional physical abilities.
Hmm.
But the source material specifically highlights one, and the rule for it is incredibly stark. We really need to talk about ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yes, we do. For almost every other neurological condition, like, say, multiple sclerosis or Parkinson's, the VA rates you based on the specific symptoms you exhibit, like tremors or muscle weakness.
And those just get thrown into the combined math grinder.
Exactly. But ALS is handled completely differently.
Why is that? Why does ALS get special treatment in the rulebook?
Honestly, it's because of the tragic nature of the disease. ALS is uniformly, rapidly progressive, and currently incurable. The VA recognizes that there is no wait-and-see period with ALS.
Right.
Once the diagnosis is confirmed, the severe loss of physical function is a clinical certainty. Therefore, ALS is automatically rated at 100% upon diagnosis for any veteran, provided it is service-connected. The VA bypasses the combined math entirely because the progression is just so devastating.
That makes sense. It's a rare moment of straightforward efficiency in the system. All right, well, let's look at the sixth and a final golden condition, and this one requires a real shift in perspective, and that is severe mental health.
Yeah. This is often the hardest claim to win and honestly the most devastating to live with. We're talking about invisible wounds here. PTSD, severe clinical depression, traumatic brain injury residuals.
All right.
If a service-connected mental health condition is so severe that it makes it impossible to hold down a job and impossible to function in normal social situations, it carries a full 100% rating on its own.
And I want to pause here and address a huge psychological barrier, because a lot of veterans listening right now are probably experiencing imposter syndrome. They're thinking, well, I have all my fingers and toes. I'm physically capable of lifting boxes. I don't deserve a 100% rating.
That imposter syndrome is incredibly common, and it is entirely misplaced.
Absolutely.
The VA schedule for mental health doesn't care about your limbs. It cares about your occupational and social impairment. Can you actually maintain employment? Like, if severe hypervigilance makes you blow up at your boss, or if panic attacks make it impossible to sit in a meeting, or if severe depression means you literally can't even get out of bed 3 days a week, you cannot sustain a job. That is what the 100% rating is measuring.
But the tragedy here is the underdocumentation, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have physical scars, you have to prove that level of impairment through medical evidence. And what do most veterans dealing with heavy mental health burdens do? They isolate.
Yep, they push everyone away.
Exactly. They don't go to therapy, they don't document their struggles with a psychiatrist, and they just try to white-knuckle it.
Exactly. And as a result, they get rated at 50% or 70% based on the very limited evidence in their file when their daily reality screams 100%. You have to create the paper trail that reflects your reality.
So true. Okay, so we've walked through the 6 conditions: cancer, heart failure, kidney failure, severe lung disease, ALS, and severe mental health. But I want to pivot back to something we touched on earlier, because there is a massive roadblock that stops people from filing. Let's go back to the cancer example.
Yeah.
If my active cancer rating is only temporary, and the VA is just going to drop my reading once I'm in remission, why should I go through the massive hassle of a VA claim? Isn't it just a ton of paperwork for something they'll eventually just take away?
So that is what we call the temporary myth. And it is the reason veterans leave tens of thousands of dollars behind. Let's thoroughly debunk this, because this is arguably the biggest financial secret of the entire VA system.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's hear it.
Yes, an active cancer rating is temporary. But during that active period, like the months or years you are actually fighting the disease, the VA owes you that full 100% compensation. Right now, that's over $3,800 a month plus extra for dependents.
Wait, but what if I didn't file for it while I was sick? What if I went through chemotherapy, say, 2 years ago, beat the cancer, and I'm just now realizing it was service-connected due to the Passy-T Act?
Then the VA owes you back pay. Yes. If you can prove you had a service-connected cancer and underwent treatment for a year, the VA owes you the difference between whatever your rating was at the time and that 100% rate for that entire year.
We are often talking about a massive check, $20,000, $30,000 or more, paid in a single lump sum, completely tax-free.
Okay, that is undeniable, life-changing money. But let's look at the second half of that fear. Treatment ends, you're in remission. Does the VA just abruptly cut off your compensation and drop you back to zero?
No, they don't. And this is the crucial second half of the secret: residuals. The VA understands that surviving something like cancer or a severe heart episode, it leaves lasting damage. When your temporary 100% rating ends, the VA is actually required to re-examine you. They evaluate the lasting damage to the disease and those brutal treatments left behind.
So we are talking about the collateral damage.
Exactly. Maybe the chemotherapy caused severe neuropathy in your hands and feet. Or maybe the surgery removed significant muscle tissue. Maybe the radiation permanently weakened your cardiovascular system.
Right, and those are all claimable. Yes. Those residuals are rated as secondary conditions. Very often, a temporary 100% rating doesn't drop to 0 at all. It transitions into a permanent, highly rated combined score based purely on the permanent collateral damage.
That is huge. Plus, we have to talk about the secondary benefits, because hitting 100% isn't just about the monthly check. It is a completely different tier of life for your family.
It absolutely is. When you hit 100%, particularly if you are awarded permanent and total status, you unlock SHAMP EVA, which provides fantastic comprehensive health care for your spouse and children. You also unlock Chapter 35 educational benefits, which provides a monthly stipend for your dependents to go to college.
That's amazing.
And on a state level, you often get massive property tax breaks. In some states, if you are 100% disabled, your property tax bill drops to literally 0.
That alone can save a family thousands and thousands of dollars every single year. But I want to address one final fear I hear all the time from veterans. Some people think, if I get a 100% disability rating, does the VA suddenly control my life? Am I legally admitting that I can never, ever work again?
Let's just put that fear to rest right now. It is entirely unfounded. A 100% schedular rating for these conditions is based strictly on medical severity. You are not signing a contract promising to never work again. You aren't giving the government control over your finances, your driver's license, or your freedom. You are simply receiving the compensation that the rulebook says your medical condition objectively warrants.
Okay, so we've mapped out the shortcut, we've broken down the anatomy of the 6 conditions, and we've shattered the myths holding people back. But knowing all this is completely useless without action. So let's walk through the 5 practical steps laid out in our sources so you can actually do something with this information today. Step 1, honest assessment.
And this step requires looking in the mirror and looking at your medical records without downplaying your symptoms. Veterans are so conditioned to say, "I'm fine."
Oh yeah, I'm fine, it's just a scratch.
Exactly. Stop doing that. Do you have or have you had cancer, serious heart failure, kidney failure, severe lung disease, ALS, or a totally debilitating mental health condition? If yes, you are in the zone.
Step 2, and this might be the most vital, time-sensitive thing we talk about today. File an intent to file. Explain how this works.
So an intent to file is basically a financial bookmark. You can do this online at va.gov or over the phone. It takes about 5 minutes. What it does is lock in today's date as your effective date.
Meaning the clock starts ticking.
Exactly. It starts the back pay clock immediately. You don't need all your evidence today. You don't need doctor's notes today. You just need to raise your hand in the system and say, "I intend to file a claim." It gives you a 1-year window to gather your paperwork while protecting your compensation from day 1.
Which perfectly leads to step 3, gather your medical records. And this isn't just getting a doctor to write a note saying you feel bad, right?
Yeah.
You have to prove the specific severity metrics the VA is looking for.
Right. You need the cold, hard, objective medical evidence. If it's a heart condition, you need the ejection fraction test results. If it's lungs, you need the pulmonary function test data. If it's kidneys, you need the dialysis records. The VA operates on evidence, not anecdotes.
Then, step 4 is to actually file the claim. And when you do, make sure the service connection is explicitly clear. Connect the dots for the rater.
This is especially vital for those sneaky secondary conditions or toxic exposures. Do not assume the VA will automatically look at your file and connect your kidney failure to your service-connected hypertension. You have to draw a bright red line between the two in your claim. State clearly, "I am claiming kidney failure secondary to my service-connected diabetes."
And finally, step 5, refile if necessary. This is huge. If you were denied 5 years ago, or if you were lowballed and sitting at a 30% rating for a condition that has slowly progressed to a 100% level, file for an increase.
The VA rating schedule is a living document, and more importantly, your body changes over time. An old denial or an old 30% rating is not the end of the story. If your current medical reality matches the 100% criteria today, the rules are on your side. You just have to leverage them.
Okay, let's pull all this together. We've covered a massive amount of ground today, and I want to make sure the key points really stick. If you only remember 3 things from this deep dive, make it these. First, single severe conditions bypass the VA combined math trap. You do not have to climb the grease pole of shrinking percentages if you have one of these 6 specific conditions. Second, even temporary conditions like active cancer trigger massive back pay and usually lead to permanent residual ratings, so do not let the temporary myth stop you from filing. And third, reaching that 100% mark unlocks life-changing secondary benefits for your entire family, from comprehensive health care to wiping out your property taxes.
Absolutely. And for the practical action you can take right now, if any of the health predictions we discussed today sound like you, or maybe a veteran you know, do not wait for the perfect time. Go submit an intent to file today. Even if it takes you 6 solid months to get your medical records together, lock in your effective date right now so your back pay clock starts ticking.
It's all about putting that financial bookmark in place.
It is. And, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We talked earlier about a kidney failure quietly stemming from diabetes. Well, how many other secondary conditions are silently slipping under the radar simply because veterans, and sometimes even their civilian doctors, separate their current physical decline from their past military service?
That's a great point.
Your body is an interconnected system. The failing heart, the severe nerve damage, the crippled joints. How much of today's pain is actually an echo of the uniform you wore decades ago? It is time to aggressively connect those dots.
Because if you don't connect them, the VA certainly isn't going to do it for you. We started this deep dive talking about the sheer frustration of the greased pole, of fighting a math system seemingly designed to keep you from the top. But the map to bypass it has been sitting right there in the rule book this whole time. It's time to pick it up and use it. Please share your questions or your own experiences navigating the VA system in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe, like, and share this video with fellow veterans who might be leaving their earned benefits on the table. Thank you for watching Veteran Briefing. Take care, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next episode.